So this piece is called A Bold Assault and a Timid Defense. And Lenin is basically making fun of okay. So if the cadets are the Democratic Party, think of the Trudeauvics as AOC. And he sometimes uses autocracy, the government, Nicholas II, like those are all Tsar and his people. Obviously, the Octoberists and the Black Hundreds are the Republicans. If the Republicans had like death squads to kill like 1,000 peasants. So with that, let us begin with a bold assault and a timid defense. That sounds just like the Democratic Party.
Okay, here we go. It has long been known that the reactionaries are bold and that the liberals are cowards. New confirmation of this ancient truth is provided by the cadets' draft of the State Duma's appeal to the people on the question of the land. Unfortunately, the Trudeauvics' draft is no better than that of the cadets. This time, the Trudeauvics are quite helplessly trailing behind the liberal bourgeoisie.
Okay, now Lenin is doing two things. He's calling out and explaining to everyone why the cadets, which is like our Democratic Party, like think of Nancy Pelosi, and why the Trudeauvics reply to the Tsar is just sucks. And he's also sneakily giving, and Lenin is part of the Social Democratic Party, but there's like an issue with the Tsar hasn't entirely allowed them to be legal. So there's a legal wing, there's an illegal wing. So Lenin's like writing in his like newspaper and now in 1905, they have trains so they can go all over Russia to all the 100 million people in the rural areas. So the issue was a lot like what we face today. A lot of people you see Democratic Party members who claim that, oh my God, the people in West Virginia are like, you've seen that. And so that was the same thing. The Mensheviks believed that they should align with the liberal bourgeoisie, which is on our face a ridiculous idea. And Lenin was like, no. We need to go to the peasants, the rural people. They're the ones who are going to be really doing the revolution. It's just that they just haven't had he knows that if you're like, if you're basically a slave and you're working like God knows how long and being traded on the stock market or whatever, they're not going to be, it's not as like easy to understand everything that's wrong with capitalism, especially if you haven't had capitalism yet, because they still didn't have agricultural capitalism. Like they didn't have tractors or factory farms. They just had large feudal estates. In fact, people were worth so little that in many places they didn't even have like farm animals like horses and cows, because like they were expecting people to literally be the cattle. With that, let's continue.
But there are the Social Democrats in the Duma. Will they not come to the rescue? Recall how this question of the State Duma appealing to the people arose. In its reply to the address from the throne.
The address from the throne is like the Tsar's State of the Union.
The State Duma expressed itself in favor of the compulsory alienation.
And compulsory alienation is literally like taking away land from the rich. So in 1861, apparently the Tsar had this like affordable, accessible plan to, in theory, getting land if you work hard enough. And Lenin was like, fuck, screw that. We're gonna just, so Lenin was like, you take away the land from the plantation owners and redistribute it to the peasants. Go ahead.
The compulsory alienation of the private estates for the benefit of the peasantry. The Goremkin cabinet concisely, clearly, and with magnificent firmness and determination answered, impermissible. But the cabinet did not confine itself to this gruff police official refusal. No, the cabinet ministers have learned something from the revolution. The cabinet ministers do not intend to confine their duties to making formal replies to formal questions of the Duma. The reactionaries are not formalists.
Okay, the reactionaries. Okay, so if you've noticed something here, you'll notice that the reactionaries are the right wingers. You remember how like somehow Joe Lieberman can stop Obama from, I don't know, whatever, and Mitch McConnell was able to get like Brett, what's his name, Kavanaugh in by playing dirty. I mean, he's and look at how he was able to obstruct, because the liberals follow the rules and the reactionaries don't. So Lenin's saying reactionaries are not formalists, so they don't follow the rules. They're practical men. Go ahead.
They know that the real power is not the Duma, but the people. They want to carry their propaganda to the people. Without wasting precious time, they forthwith withdrew up an appeal to the people.
That's some procedure they just totally made up. It's like kind of like the parliamentarian.
It was this government communication of June 20th that suggested the idea of the Duma appealing to the people. The government showed the way. The Duma trailed behind the government, and it was incapable of being the first to take a course worthy of a genuine representative assembly of the people. How was the government's communication framed? Like a real fighting manifesto of the reactionary monarchist party. Oh, the reactionaries are not bashful in the least. They know how to write in militant terms. In their communication, they plainly speak the name of the government.
Indeed, that's code for on behalf of the Tsar.
Indeed, why should they stand on ceremony? The liberal professors claim that we are living under a constitutional system and that the Duma is also part of the government. Let the professors chatter. Let them amuse the people with their constitutional antics. We reactionaries are practical men. We know that, in fact, we are the government. We say so plainly. As for the quibbles and formalism of these liberal pedants, we don't care a fig for them. We say plainly and openly, peasants, you don't know what is good for you. Compulsory alienation is no good for you, and we, the government, will not allow it. All the peasant talk about the land is lies and deception. It is the government that takes most care of the peasants. Even now, it is ready to offer them sops. But the peasants have got to understand that they cannot expect improvements to come from sedition and violence. They can be obtained only by peaceful labor. They should have added for the landlords. And as a result of the constant care our autocratic government takes of the peasants.
Hold on. So what does this sound kind of familiar to you? Like, doesn't it sound exactly like the Republicans' like free market speech, or like whatever Bush, like what is it? Work hard. You've seen Mitch McConnell or every Republican do this BS.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and so I just wanted to get your thoughts. Like, does it sound familiar to you? Like a lot?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And now, okay. Such was the gist of the government's communication. It is an actual declaration of war on the revolution.
The people.
It is an actual manifesto of the reactionary autocracy saying to the people, we shall tolerate no nonsense, we shall crush you.
This sounds a lot like Tom Cotton's editorial about the slave insurrection law. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
And now the cadets and the Trudovics, who this time are in complete captivity to them, have set about answering the government's challenge. The draft replies of the cadets and the Trudovics have been published today. What a miserable, truly pitiful impression these two drafts create. The reactionary Camarilla does not hesitate to break the law and to declare that what is formally only a small part of the government is the real and entire government. The
Hold
cadets
on. So Lenin's gonna use a word called, I think this has to be our insult of the day. It's called sapient gudgeons. it comes from like an old Russian or European tale, and I guess Lenin often used sapient gudgeons. Like he's put this in other pieces to describe a vacuum of ineptitude, which is not that different. Okay, go ahead.
The cadets and the Trudovics, like Shedrin's sapient gudgeons, take shelter in the reeds of the law. They are hitting us with lawlessness, saying these sniveling peoples, if you please, representatives, but we are defending ourselves with the law. The Duma, acting in accordance with the law, expresses itself in favor of compulsory alienation. According to the law, no proposal of the government can come into force without the consent of the Duma. We, in accordance with the law, have appointed a committee, a big one, of 99 members. This committee is drafting a carefully considered and properly framed law.
Yeah. Hold on. For me, my favorite part is how he explains what the cadets were doing. Like he's like, we have appointed a committee, a big one of 99 members, and we're like slowly, carefully drafting the law as to like not be useful to the peasant. That should be very familiar to all of us. But I just like the way he puts a big one of 99. That's just like liberalism. Okay, go ahead.
Let the people peacefully and quietly await the conclusion of the work of promulgating this law. The Trudovics deleted this utterly indecently abject concluding sentence. Their consciences pricked them, but they inserted instead a statement about organizing local land institutions.
Doesn't that sound like a lot like organizing, like AOC's word salad about organizing? Okay, go ahead.
Treacherously remaining silent about the fact that the Duma, in other words, its cadet majority, avowedly wants these institutions to be landlord and bureaucratic organizations.
That means that they're going to screw over the peasants. Obviously, like, I mean, if you like, what's going to happen if you have like 100 CEOs decide, like, or 400 wolves deciding what to have for dinner? And Lenin is that's the problem with the institutions to be landlord and bureaucratic, as in, yeah, the peasants are getting screwed over.
For shame, gentlemen, representatives of the people, it is disgraceful for you to pretend that you do not understand what every Russian mutzik, even in the remotest village, now understands, namely that in Russia today, there is a wide gulf between laws on paper and the facts of life.
That sounds very familiar to us too, because the president, for example, can bomb Syria, and I guess it's not against the Constitution, but somehow the parliamentarian. So yeah, we also have a huge gulf between laws on paper and the facts of life.
That it is impossible for the transfer of all the land to the peasants and complete freedom for all the people to be achieved by the peaceful means of allegedly constitutional and strictly legal efforts.
Hold on, let's read that part again.
That it is impossible for the transfer of all the land to the peasants and complete freedom for all the people to be achieved by the peaceful means of allegedly constitutional and strictly legal efforts.
Okay, I hope that's clear to everyone. Okay, go ahead.
If you lack the courage to write as firmly as the Camarilla and to utter your revolutionary truth as candidly, in answer to its reactionary truth, you should not have undertaken to reply to the cabinet.
Well, hold on. What I really like about this part is that reactionaries kind of like say half of the truth in like for me, the reactionary truth is that, like, for example, when Trump said, oh, all these countries were shithole countries. Did I use the same example last week, Jana, as the shithole country example?
No, I don't. I mean, I think we were talking about it, but I don't remember you bringing it up last week.
Phew. Okay. So for me, like the reactionary truth part is when Trump, for example, called some country a shithole country. And the liberals were like, no, that's not very polite. Instead of talking about wait a minute, the US invaded Haiti in 1917, 1915, created a race war, stayed there for another 30 years, and then like massacred a lot of people, like just literally went and looted all the money from the banks and put it in Citibank. And then like that, after World War II, like came the IMF, the shock doctrine, the privatization, and then they've been like exploiting Haiti for like over 200 years now. And of course, the earthquake itself was another shock doctrine excuse. And actually, Haiti had to pay reparations to France for all the lost slaves. So instead of talking for the reactionary truth that yes, Haiti's in a different condition than the US, they actually went to like politeness as opposed to telling the revolutionary truth, which is imperialism screwed that country over. And that this is the same phenomenon that keeps happening, and this is why liberalism fails, because exactly, reactionary truth to politeness, but what you need is a revolutionary truth to fight the reactionary truth. What do you think of this?
Well, like you're saying, there's a kind of parallel in today's political universe, and I guess it's just something universal that transcends time
and space. Go ahead.
The laws governing the Duma do not provide for an appeal to the people. That being so, O wise men of the law, keep up your interpolations and do not meddle in a field where you have neither the courage nor the straightforwardness nor the ability to compete with the reactionaries.
Wait, can we go over this part again? Just repeat this for people to understand what liberals are not capable of from the laws governing.
The laws governing the Duma do not provide for an appeal to the people. That being so, O wise men of the law, keep up your interpolations and do not meddle in a field where you have neither the courage nor the straightforwardness, nor the ability to compete with the reactionaries, who are practical men and know how to fight.
Well, one thing, this part is very true, because we can see this over and over. Like, the liberals capitulate even the 1600 to. It's like, do you know what the check thingy is now? Is it from 2000? What did it go down to? Okay, so Joe Biden said something about $2,000 checks for Georgia, and then now it's at 1,400. And so they keep surrendering. Like, if you've noticed, Trump fought harder for a losing election, and Al Gore surrendered even though he clearly won Florida. Like, there's no doubt about it. So yeah, the liberals are cowards and they're not capable of fighting with reactionaries on an equal footing. Go ahead.
And if you do draw up an appeal to the people, you must write the truth, the whole truth, the bitter and unvarnished truth. You must say to the people, peasants, the cabinet has issued its appeal to you. The cabinet ministers do not want to give you either land or freedom. The cabinet ministers brazenly speak in the name of the whole government. They speak against the Duma, although on paper, the Duma is supposed to be part of the government. Peasants, the cabinet ministers are in actual fact the autocratic government of Russia. They don't care a fig for your people's representatives in the Duma. They jeer at them and delay everything by their police lawyer quibbling. They mock at the demands of the people, and as if nothing had happened, continue their policy of murder, violence, plunder, and pogroms. Peasants, you must know that the Duma is powerless to give you land and freedom. The Duma is tied hand and foot by the laws of the police government. You must secure that the representatives of the people have full power, all the power of the state in their hands.
That means
get rid of land and freedom? If you do, then secure the convocation of a national constituent assembly. Secure the complete abolition of the old regime all over the country. Secure complete freedom of elections. Peasants, know that you will never be free unless you free yourselves. The workers understood this, and by their struggles, compelled the government to yield the concessions of October 17th.
That's the Duma.
And you too must understand it. Only when you do so will you be a revolutionary people. That is, a people that knows what it must fight for, a people that knows how to fight, a people that knows how to vanquish its oppressors. Utilize your deputies in the Duma, those who represent you in the Duma. Unite more closely and solidly all over Russia and prepare for a great struggle. Without a fight, you will get neither land nor freedom. Without a fight, you will have ruinous redemption payments forcibly foisted upon you, and will have foisted upon you land committees consisting of landlords and bureaucrats who will deceive and rob you as they did in 1861. Peasants, we are doing all we can for you in the Duma, but you must complete the job yourselves if you really want conditions in Russia to be different from what they are now, even though there is a Duma.
Exactly. So I want people to read this, but let's change peasants to American workers and read this year, and Duma to the legislation, and read this over and over. Change pogroms to imperialism, or actually we might even have pogroms for all we know. And read this whole, I want everyone to read this part over and over to understand what to do. Okay, go ahead.
But it would be ridiculous to propose such an appeal in the Duma. But would it? Is it not more ridiculous to write appeals to the people in the stilted language of the hidebound Russian lawyers that the cadets, and to their shame be it said, the Trudoviks use? Do the people exist for the Duma, or does the Duma exist for the people? Is freedom to exist for the Duma, or is the Duma to serve the cause of freedom?
Second.
Let the cadets appeal and Trudoviks appeal, and our appeal be read at any peasant meeting. We will hear what the peasants say in the answer to the question, who is right?
Well, and as we know, the peasants said, all power to the Soviets. And so they decided that Lenin was right. So for me, what I really like about this piece is that it lays down the limitations of bourgeoisie parliamentarism, or like basically when you have like a capitalist system with like basically our system, more or less, if the Senate were made with a lot of inbred creepy people. So like, how do you feel? Do you feel like after reading this?
How do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like you said, it just seems like there's this sort of finite political universe in which things occur, and there are trends that repeat themselves historically. Even something, this was composed 115 years ago, and then you can happily apply it to what's happening today.
I know. It gets creepier. Like the more you read it, there's one piece where I literally had to change the name from Count Hayden to John McCain, and everything applied. So